I'm going to be talking about the Word. The Word as the first agreement in this 1997 book by Don Miguel Ruiz called The Four Agreements. How many of you are familiar with this book? Yeah, every hand in the house nearly goes up. I was working in Las Vegas at a conference in my late 20s, and my roommate was a stylist for the agency I worked for. And Angèle was very spiritual. I hadn't met anyone like her at that time in my life. And as we arrived in our shared room, she pulled a velvet satchel out with a lot of care that she carried around in her suitcase. And one by one, she took these items out of this velvet satchel and laid them on the windowsill. And I asked her what they were. And she said, "These are my talisman. They represent things to me. They remind me of places I've been, of people I've loved." And she set them all up. And then she pulled out this book, and she had asked me if I'd ever read it. And at that time, I'd never heard it before. It had only been published a couple years prior. And after spending this week sharing this room with Angèle, setting up these trade show booths for our clients, working really long hours in very hot conditions in Las Vegas. This was in August at the Magic Conference. And I watched how she moved through the conditions of the heat and the rigors of the conference with so much ease and grace. And when I got overheated, she pulled me aside and got out some peppermint oil and told me to go into the bathroom and rub cold water on the inside of my wrists and then put some peppermint oil up here on my temple. And she taught me things that I had never considered, how to soothe myself or how to bring some mementos from home that might mean something to me. And so I thought this woman had some wisdom for me. And I went and got a copy of this book, The Four Agreements. And I read it many times, but the agreement that I've read the most is number 2. It's called Don't Take Anything Personally, which I found impossible, which is probably why I read it so often. But what I really want to dig into tonight is the Word, being impeccable with your Word. And when I first read this book, my takeaway from that was I really focused on the external, not on the internal. The words that I shared with other people about other people. And one of the things I really wanted to do after reading this book was be mindful of what gossip was. And what I'm paying attention to today is I'm really reworking what gossip means to me, the gossip in my mind, the words that I tell myself. And lately I've been consuming a lot of Matt Kahn. Anybody here familiar? See a couple hands go up. He says, the words you say to yourself most often dictate how you feel about yourself. And how you feel about yourself becomes the view of how you think the world sees you. So I've thought about this in conjunction with being impeccable with your word. And if what you say to yourself becomes how you feel about yourself, and how you feel about yourself becomes the view of how the world sees you, that's like, back it up, right? Like if there's something that, so I'll just share with you, I was having an experience when I was hosting an event a couple of weeks ago. And what I noticed is that I started to have some really negative self-talk as I was reflecting on this experience. And what it really came down to when I unwrapped it was I felt unworthy. And so using this architecture here, if the things I'm saying to myself have me feel unworthy, then that's what I believe everyone else is experiencing. And so breaking this down, it was like, what I think becomes what I feel becomes what I am. So in the book, The Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz writes, depending on how the word is used, it can set you free or it can enslave you more than you know. By hooking our attention, the word can enter our mind and change a whole belief, for better or for worse. Being impeccable with your word means to use your energy in the direction of truth and love for yourself. I was like, truth and love for yourself. So how do we choose to believe that we are more worthy? I'm distracted by this adorable dog that clearly wants to go somewhere else in this moment. Oh, it's okay. So truth and love for yourself. How do we choose to believe that we are worthy of more and not less? And that's actually the title of my talk today from Matt Kahn. You deserve more love, not less. He writes, you're the only one that can rewrite your brain chemistry. We all know the kind of world we want to live in. And I'll tell you that it is you starting your own love revolution and loving your own heart that'll bring an end to the things that you no longer resonate with and will create space for the things that you wish to see in the world. And that includes loving yourself more, not less. When you give your attention to loving yourself, you're not focused on worries. When you give your attention to loving yourself, you're not focused on your worries. Like, how can you be? You're too consumed telling your heart that you love it. If you're busy doing that, then you can't be focused on the worries of the day or the problems that might be around you. As I was asking myself, well, how? Are there some steps that make this possible? Matt Kahn goes on to say, we anchor vibrational access to certain levels or states of consciousness. And by giving the body permission to feel a certain way naturally, by using those words, and by those words, he means, I love you. I love you. To your heart. So by using those words as gifts that we give to our own heart, we get to experience a world behaving and treating us the way we've thoughtfully and lovingly begun to treat ourselves. As within, so without. It seems so simple when I listen to him talk. It seems so simple that we can, in fact, change the vibration of what we are receiving in the world through the lens of our heart as we tune in to the frequency of love. More love becomes available to us. And so this idea about being impeccable with our word Something that I learned this summer with Dr. Joe Dispenza at the Unlimited Retreat was that nobody changes until I change my energy. So the story about my family and the way that I created separation between me and them through the word, by using the words I used when I described my family, when I made myself different from them, when I chose to see myself as the black sheep or as the different one. I created separation and distance, and I did that through my word. And when I shared this word with other people, it not only became my reality, it became their reality. It literally became my life. My word created that separation within my own family as I chose to move away and discover more life for myself. And now that I'm back home, here on the lands where I grew up, where my ancestry is, here. 4 generations of my family went to the Victoria Truth Center at 1201 Fort Street. And so being back here, surrounded by New Thought philosophy and this idea of living life lovingly, I'm now looking for the commonalities. I'm speaking about the commonalities. I'm finding new ways of connecting to the vision of the reality that I want to call in. So I want a close and loving and connected relationship with all members of my family. And I do that through my word and my intention, just by noticing. Don Miguel Ruiz continues to write, "The word is a force. It is the power you have to express and communicate, to think, and thereby to create the events in your life. The word is the most powerful tool you have as a human. It is the tool of magic. Through your word, you express your creative power. It is through the word that you manifest everything. Your word becomes your reality. Your thoughts are the birthplace. So as we think about harvesting, the seeds are the thoughts that we're planting inside of our head that later turn into the flowers and the plants and the blossoms of our life. In the Toltec wisdom tradition, they say we are all free to choose how we treat each other and how we allow others to treat us. So if someone is not treating you with love and respect, it's a gift to walk away. It's a gift to yourself to walk away. But what happens if it's me doing it to myself? It's not love and respect that I'm not receiving from someone else, but it's love and respect that I'm not giving to myself. Noticing that and saying a few more I love yous into your beautiful, precious heart. That is what I wish. How much you love yourself and how you feel about yourself are directly proportionate to the quality and integrity of your word. So I'm going to be a little bit more like Matt Kahn these days and form my own love revolution. He tells us that we can use our breath as if it's the last. We never know when that breath will come. But with each breath, we can whisper, I love you, deep down into our heart, so that it becomes part of our cellular memory. So we have it with us at all times. He reminds us that we're here to create anything that we want, and that we have the right to want anything that we desire. But you must first stand for love, which is why the quote is, enter the kingdom first, and then all these things and more will be given to you. And the kingdom is your own beautiful heart. Thank you.